Ethan, stay back! Ethan, stay back!
SWAT teams are the professionals you never want to be on the wrong side of. From taking down criminals barricaded in their homes to bringing hostage situations to a swift end, these SWAT teams can do it all.
Turn around! Turn around!
Wrong hostage.
Yes, this is the Orange County Jail at 33rd Street.
Okay.
We have an inmate with a gun.
So, this guy, who is already on his way to prison, decides to up the ante and pulls a stunt that only lands him more time behind bars. Eric Stanley, our brilliant suspect, manages to slip free from his flex cuffs, whips out a gun, and points it at an officer, demanding him to hit the floor. Then, because one cop isn't enough, he grabs another and takes him hostage. To handle the situation, the SWAT team was called in. Stanley took the officer behind the nurse's desk. The officer, waiting for his chance, tried to grab the gun, leading to a scuffle. With the officer out of danger, the SWAT team moved in from all directions. Talk about picking the worst person and place for a hostage situation. Judo flip. This Chinese man took a lady hostage with a cleaver, telling the police to stay back. But here comes an undercover SWAT commando who grabs the suspect's hand and judo flips him to the ground. This is why you don't mess with Chinese SWAT teams. Their martial arts skills are more than enough. Perfect shot. Doug Conley, a man clearly not in the right state of mind, had a standoff with police for hours after he decided to take his chair, sit in the middle of the road, and brandishing a gun. Sometimes pointing at others, sometimes himself. Conley was even handed a drink by the officers during the standoff, but the teams were growing impatient. So, war veteran and SWAT sniper Mike Plum decided to end it. With one perfect shot, he took out not the gunman, but the gun. I mean, how good of an aim do you need to not even hurt the guy's finger? My man had an aimbot on before it was even a thing. Sturdy door.
Again!
Ready to hold this door when I go.
Open, that's my through the window.
The SWAT team shows up at the house of an ATM thief and detains the owner outside, who was mowing his lawn, before trying to ram the door. Sometimes the biggest resistance they face isn't from the suspects. I have lost count of how many times they hit that door. Finally, an officer changes, and the new guy gets it open on the second try. That was one sturdy door. They don't make them like that anymore. But here's the funny part. The door was unlocked all along. In the heat of the moment, they didn't even check, or maybe they just wanted to try their door ramming training in real life. Outlaw teenagers. In the UK, cops are routinely unarmed, so you really have to mess up big time to get the special armed units to show up and take you down. After leading officers on a high-speed chase, these teenagers found their way ahead, blocked by parked cars. They tried to throttle their way out, but before they could manage to get away, an armed officer, not caring about the precious Audi, smashed the window with his rifle. With a gun pointed in their faces, it was wise not to drive anymore. The driver complied and got out of the car, but the passenger kept resisting. For that, he took a few blows from the officer's rifle before being dragged out of the car. While an onlooker tried to say, "They're just kids," let's remember how many lives they must have endangered with their reckless driving. It's good they learned a lesson this way. House demo. This SWAT team is having a standoff with a suspect who attacked a police officer and burned a house. While standing on his balcony, refusing to come down, he underestimated the power of the ramming bumper on the SWAT vehicle. It took down his whole balcony along with him, and amidst the rubble, the K9 did its job of getting the suspect. Now that's some balcony breaker brilliance. Emotional. Hey, SWAT teams aren't all guns and violence. They are highly trained professionals who know how to handle every kind of situation. Take this armed suspect who barricaded himself inside a house and wasn't complying. He has a history of schizophrenia, so who knows what was going through his head? Instead of charging in and creating a situation where deadly might be used, the SWAT team changed the tactic. They recorded a voice message from his dad and played it on a speaker.
This is Daddy. Now I want you to come out and, and talk to me. I want to talk to you, and we want you to be all right.
Hearing his father's voice, the man came out voluntarily without any weapon. Now this is how you execute a sensitive operation with perfection. Russian Special Force. These wannabe Russian gangsters start harassing a poor guy just trying to cross the road with his bike. A white SUV pulls up behind, blaring its horn, and another wannabe gangster steps out, acting all tough. But before he can even start his threat parade, Special Forces jump out of a minivan behind the SUV. While one gets pinned to the ground, the other rushes back to their car, but officers quickly drag one out, toss the two into the minivan, and then one officer jumps into the wannabe gangster's car and drives away. Tackle.
To the ground, man. Oh, Jesus. I didn't do anything.
This guy standing in front of an officer gets tackled to the ground in perfect football form. Then he starts repeating that he didn't do anything, as if he didn't just ignore the SWAT team's commands to get down on the ground and wasn't standing toe-to-toe with an officer. Save your statements for the investigation team, buddy. Through the roof. Lastly, we have a guy who thought he was some kind of action movie hero. When the cops arrived to raid his home, he had no intention to allow them to take him easily. While the cops were figuring out how to break the door, the suspect used a sledgehammer to make a hole in his roof and climbed out from there. Then he started throwing bricks and metal roof pieces at the officers on the street. You would think with all that effort to make a hole, he had some grand escape plan, right? But no, he just sat there and called a buddy, like he expected to be whisked away in a helicopter. Surprise. On January 18, 2019, the Narcotics Task Force SWAT team executed a search warrant on a house suspected of being packed with drugs in a village in New Mexico. The warrant specified a stealthy approach, so the officers tiptoed to the front door, whispering to each other like they were sneaking in after curfew. After checking the doorknob, an officer decided to use a flashbang before entering. Just then, the suspect, sensing something fishy, decides to check outside and suddenly opens the door. Without missing a beat, the officer throws the flashbang right at the suspect. The suspect manages to catch the flashbang and toss it away like a hot potato, but it does the job of distracting him while the SWAT team barges in and arrests him. The officer firmly tells him, "You should quit selling drugs because the flashbang isn't the only thing you are catching. Get ready to catch some charges too." Rook attack. The slow speed chase of an 18-wheeler on a Texas highway finally came to a stop when the police punctured the tires, but the suspect wasn't ready to give up. To make things easier, the SWAT team brought in the heavy breaching vehicle known as the Rook. It broke the rear window of the cab's passenger side, and officers tossed a flashbang inside. Even after that, the suspect was determined to stay put. So, the Rook happily tore open the door after smashing the front passenger side window. With both doors gone, the SWAT team approached the vehicle. The suspect still wasn't cooperating, so they called in their ferocious, furry friend. The K9 jumped into the cab and clamped down on the suspect. An officer jumped in to help, and after a brief struggle, the SWAT officers got their hands on the suspect, pulled him out, and threw him to the ground, where he was finally placed under arrest. Drop the gun.
Occupants of 3349 McGuire Drive. This is the Richmond Police Department. We have a search warrant for this residence. Come out the front door with your hands up and follow the officer's command.
On June 9, 2023, Richmond Police SWAT showed up at a house around 5 in the morning. With their red and blues flashing outside, an officer kept announcing via megaphone for the suspect to get out and surrender. But you know, they never listen. So the SWAT team moved forward. Using a pry bar, they opened the metal storm door. Being gentlemen, the SWAT officers gave a couple of knocks, and after no one answered, they initiated the breach with a portable ram. The door opened on the first hit. They found a man standing across the living room, and as soon as the suspect waved a gun, the SWAT officer opened fire. And you know they don't miss. Another woman in the house appeared, smartly unarmed, and surrendered while the suspect lay on the ground. I mean, who in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to get armed when a SWAT team is outside? That's like having a death wish. Good dog. A man armed with a 9mm handgun showed up at his ex-girlfriend's house and refused to leave. After receiving the call, the police showed up at the scene, but the suspect got even more agitated. Instead of surrendering, he started threatening the officers. So they quickly called in the SWAT team and established a perimeter to keep him contained in the front yard in case he tried to flee. As the SWAT team's technical parole violator approached the scene, the suspect realized he had messed up big time. Enter the K9, who jumped into action, delivering one well-placed and deserved bite to bring the suspect to the ground. The officer commanded the dog to let go, and the good dog obeyed, allowing the SWAT members to approach the suspect. The all-tough guy had now shifted his tone to a much more agreeable one. Can we take a moment to appreciate how well-trained that K9 was? Not only did he do the job, but he also listened to instructions perfectly. Rescue. This armed man is on a rampage. He has already attacked a family, injured a juvenile in a shooting spree, and carjacked someone. When pursued by the police, he barges into a random building and takes one of the residents there as hostage. That's when the K9 units and SWAT teams are called in. The residents across the street record the horrifying moments of the gunman holding a gun to the woman's head. He drags her away from the window and starts pacing around the room when a flashbang goes off and he hits the ground. He gets up and starts running erratically, trying to find an escape, but then another flashbang. The SWAT team storms the apartment with bullets flying. They manage to rescue the woman, and as for the dangerous gunman, let's just say he won't be needing a court trial. Justice has already been served. In the face. A man armed with a knife was terrorizing customers at a supermarket in Northamptonshire, UK. As customers fled for safety, 2 special armed police officers entered the store with their rifles at the ready. Just as they were approaching the corner of an aisle, the suspect walked right into the officers.
No! Stay where you are! Stay where you are! Don't put your hands together!
With those heavy weapons and the officers' scary, firm voices, he knew they meant business. The suspect quickly dropped the weapon and fell to the ground. Fortunately, this guy had some sense and didn't do something stupid, or you can imagine how he would have ended up. Lemonade Kingpin. This SWAT team is on its way to take down someone who has been threatening the police for some time. The scene unfolds like an action movie. The officers break the glass door, throw in a flashbang, and storm inside the residence. What do they find? A juvenile girl lying on the ground. They ask her to get up and put her in handcuffs. Did she make the threats? Nope. It was actually their neighbor using their Wi-Fi to make the threats. This poor girl had to face this terrifying ordeal for no reason. Or maybe they just nabbed the biggest lemonade kingpin in the state. Eyes everywhere.
Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
These Australian cops are raiding the house of a man known to be involved in numerous drug operations. They open the storm door with a pry bar and then try breaking the front door open with a portable ram, but when that fails, a super kick from one of the cops does the job. They find a couple in bed, looking like they just woke up and have no idea what's going on. In reality, they tried to outsmart the cops by tossing a black box out the window, thinking they would succeed and make the cops look foolish when they found nothing. But little did they know, the cops had people all around watching. They saw the girlfriend toss the box, so she just made their job easier. Now they don't even have to search the place for evidence. Watch that man die inside when the officer shows up with the box. He knows that with drugs, cash, and a gun inside, he could be locked up for many years. Morning coffee.
Yeah, show me your hands. Show me your hands. No. Stand up.
After threatening people with a knife in public, this man thought he could just sit in Starbucks and enjoy his coffee. But the armed police forces had other plans. They barged in and quickly arrested the man. Now that's an interesting start to the day for all the other people having coffee there. Distraction. After leading the police on an intense chase, this suspect finds his car blocked by 2 TPV vehicles. From the one behind, the SWAT team gets out, throws a flashbang, and quickly pulls him out of the car. There's just so much happening in the video. I mean, what do you focus on? The suspect on the ground, the officer continuously trying to kick away a robot in the way, or the K9 just itching to be released so he can teach the suspect a lesson himself. This is straight-up action comedy. No switches. At 2:30 a.m., Kansas City SWAT showed up at a house suspected of harboring an armed, barricaded suspect, possibly with more people inside. The streetlights make the officers easy targets if the suspect decides to open fire, so they need the lights off. And they are not waiting for the electric company. Some shotguns take care of that. Now that's cool. For hours, there's no response from inside, so the SWAT team breaks a window and hurls in the throw phone, a device used to establish contact during standoffs. But nobody picks up. The SWAT team gets ready to breach, but just at that moment, someone walks out of the door, then another. When the SWAT team finally enters the house to see if anyone's left inside, they find the main suspect deceased, injured by his own gun and dead for hours. I mean, his friends were just chilling inside with him having a bullet in his head. Regular visit. Watch this SWAT team clinging to their TPV as they head to raid a house suspected of housing drug suppliers. With that speed and level of destruction, you might think it's some kind of training exercise. Well, not really, but the house is no stranger to the team. This is actually their 9th time raiding it after different drug suppliers moved in. No wonder they didn't even have to wait to make a plan. They just knew exactly what to do. Instant karma. After leading cops on a high-speed chase and crashing his car in a multi-vehicle collision, the suspect found himself cornered by the SWAT team. When they pulled up near his car, he started firing. The SWAT officers wasted no time and fired back. And look at Officer Joe, going right in front of an armed suspect. This guy fears nothing. What's even more unbelievable is that 3 officers shot at the car while the passenger side was facing them, and not a single gunshot from the SWAT team hit the passenger. They effectively only took out the driver, who started the gunfight. under 30 seconds. For 8 hours, police had been negotiating with an unstable man threatening his wife and children. Finally, the SWAT team got the green signal to move in. Look at these pros at work. They made as little noise as possible as they made their way to the front door, rammed it open, and stormed up to the first story where the suspect was holding hostages. They rammed the door twice, and before the guy could even speak, they opened fire with top-notch accuracy. From ramming the front door to getting the suspect on the ground, the SWAT team did it all in under 30 seconds. That's some serious speed. Well, that's the end of our journey through the world of SWAT raids. Which clip did you find most interesting, or have you ever encountered a house being swatted? I would love to hear in the comments. Make sure to like the video and hit the little bell so you get notified when we post new videos just for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this coming your way in future. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.